If you've been sleeping on Shedeur Sanders, now might be the last chance to hit snooze. Because on day 3 of Brown's training camp, Shedeur didn't just show up, he arrived. After days of quietly preparing behind the scenes, earning whispers of promise and respect from teammates, the rookie finally got a shot with a second-team offense, and he made every snap count. From the first rep, it was clear something had shifted. No nerves, no hesitation, just a poised, precise, and prepared quarterback walking into the huddle. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed, like it was already his. Shedeur had waited patiently, worked methodically, and blocked out the noise. This wasn't just a strong practice. This was a statement. And he made it without saying a word. Let's rewind a bit. Heading into camp, Shedeur Sanders was listed as the 4th quarterback on the Browns' depth chart. A 5th-round pick buried behind names with bigger contracts, higher draft status, and more professional reps, veterans like Joe Flacco, young hopefuls like Kenny Pickett, and, of course, the rookie everyone was told to watch, Dillon Gabriel, taken earlier in the draft, handed the narrative before a ball was even snapped. Shedeur? He was a question mark, the unknown, the wild card, the one media voices whispered about cautiously, often mentioning his surname, Sanders, before his stats or his actual play. It was as if his presence was tolerated, not anticipated. He wasn't part of the plan, until he made himself unavoidable. From the jump, Sanders didn't approach camp like someone playing catch-up. He prepared like someone planning a takeover. First-team reps or not, he was in every meeting, studying every play, mentally repping every route. Coaches noticed. Teammates noticed. Even as Gabriel stumbled through reads and Flacco settled into a backup rhythm, Sanders just kept preparing, quietly, methodically, intentionally. And then came day 3. The coaching staff, for reasons still wrapped in vague evaluation language, finally gave Sanders some meaningful reps with the second-team offense. Not mop-up duty, not walkthroughs, real snaps, real timing, real opportunity. He didn't waste a second. The first throw, a tight window completion over the middle, hitting his receiver in stride between 2 linebackers. The second, a perfectly timed sideline out route, placed just high enough to protect his receiver, but low enough to keep the drive alive. The third, a deep ball, 45 yards downfield, perfectly placed, drawing a collective O from the sideline. It wasn't flashy. It was clinical. And in those moments, the tide turned. Suddenly, those whispers turned into conversation. People started leaning forward. Beat reporters started scribbling notes. Veterans who had been treating the reps like routine started paying attention. And Sanders? He just kept delivering. Poise in the pocket. Confidence in the cadence. No wasted motion, no forced throws, no panic under pressure. It was a kind of performance you rarely see from a rookie. Not because they lack the talent, but because they rarely get the chance. And when Shedeur got his, he didn't just match expectations. He broke them. But what makes this breakout even more impressive is what came before it. The long days of silence. The patience. The restraint. The maturity to stay sharp without the spotlight. While others got headlines for mistakes or viral training camp clips, Sanders just worked. He didn't demand reps. He earned them. And when the off-field distractions came, namely, 2 speeding tickets the media pounced on, he didn't deflect. He owned them, apologized, took responsibility. That should have been the end of it. But of course it wasn't. Headlines turned it into a character flaw, a referendum on his maturity, as if a couple of traffic violations somehow negated years of discipline, leadership, and community service. Never mind that Shedeur had already made quiet, impactful contributions in Cleveland, supporting fire victims, engaging in youth events, mentoring fellow rookies. That didn't make the narrative. It rarely does. What sticks is the clickbait. And yet, through all of it, he stayed focused. Because that's who he is. That's who Dion raised. A quarterback who leads with action, not excuses. And now, the Browns have a decision to make. Because day 3 didn't just reveal that Shedeur could hang with the twos. It showed that he might be better than anyone else in that room. It's no longer about development or future potential. It's about what's happening right now. And if Shedeur Sanders is giving you the best quarterback play in practice, how much longer can you justify keeping him off the field? That's the question fans are already asking. And if the team isn't careful, that question turns into frustration, then pressure, then problems. Because nothing divides a locker room faster than obvious talent being ignored. And the team feels it. Coaches can downplay it. Reporters can sugarcoat it. But players know who's balling and who's not. They know who they trust under center. And Shedeur, after just 3 days, is quietly becoming that guy. Even more, he's doing it the right way. No ego, no politics, just execution. Ask the receivers, he's communicating clearly, adjusting routes, giving guys confidence. Ask the linemen, he's praising blocks, stepping up cleanly in the pocket, showing awareness. Ask the defense. They'll tell you, off the record, that they're having to step it up when he's under center. That's impact. That's presence. That's a quarterback who's ready. But as a team, that's the elephant in the room. Because while Shedeur continues to rise, the Browns' coaching staff, especially head coach Kevin Stefanski, has remained frustratingly quiet. No clear acknowledgement of his performance. No indication of an expanded role. Just vague praise and talk of sticking to the process. But at some point, the process has to reflect the product. And right now, the product says this. Shedeur Sanders is outplaying the guys ahead of him. He's doing more with fewer reps. He's staying sharp despite external distractions. He's galvanizing a locker room without even being the starter. And most of all, he's proving that he doesn't just belong in the NFL. He might be exactly what Cleveland needs. So what now? Give him more. More reps, more responsibility, more visibility. Not as a gift, as a response. You don't reward hype. You reward production. And if day 3 is any indication, Shedeur is just getting started. He's still QB3 on paper. Maybe QB4, depending on how stubborn the org wants to be. But to anyone watching, really watching, it's clear. He's QB1 in momentum. QB1 in preparation. QB1 in the hearts of fans who've seen too many wasted opportunities at the position. No one's asking for him to start next Sunday. But the time for caution is over. The time for let's wait and see has passed. He's showing you he's ready. Now show him that you're paying attention. Because talent doesn't wait forever. And neither do opportunities. Either you act on them, or someone else will. For now, day 3 was Shedeur Sanders' breakout. But if the Browns let it, it could be something more. The start of something real. The start of a shift. The beginning of a future that nobody predicted, but everyone can see coming. He's not knocking on the door anymore. He's standing in the hallway, helmet in hand, waiting for it to open. The only question now is, who's brave enough to turn the knob? Because the longer the Browns hesitate, the more the moment builds. And Shedeur Sanders isn't just waiting, he's working while he waits. That's the difference between guys who show flashes and the ones who last. Some rookies come in hot, then plateau. They burn out on attention, get rattled by the speed of the game, lose their edge when they realize it's not college anymore. Shedeur's different. He didn't walk into camp like a college superstar. He walked in like a backup accountant in a championship company. Clipboard ready, head down, learning everything, not entitled ready. Day 3 was just the beginning of what he's already building behind the scenes. You won't see it in stat sheets, but ask the guy snapping him the ball. Ask the defensive back watching film of his reps. They'll tell you he's gaining traction. It's in how he talks in the huddle, concise, confident, calm. It's in how he corrects a wide out without blaming, how he checks a play call twice, but never looks confused. It's in the way the offense breathes a little easier when he's out there. Even though he's not supposed to be leading yet, he's leading anyway. And that's what Cleveland has to reckon with. Because there's a major difference between a quarterback who executes and a quarterback who elevates. And Shedeur, even in limited reps, is elevating. His receivers are sharper. The energy is up. The sideline noise picks up. Coaches, who were maybe half watching earlier reps, start to drift closer. Eyes lock in. Whispers turn into raised eyebrows. He's not just another guy. He's the kind of guy who makes people reconsider their assumptions. And yet, despite everything, the poise, the performance, the preparation, the door to first-team reps still hasn't swung open. That's what makes this story fascinating. You have a young man doing everything right. He's shown growth after every session. He's handling the off-field noise with more grace than players 10 years older. And still no official nod, no elevation, no clear message from the coaching staff that they're even considering the obvious. That's not football. That's bureaucracy. Let's call it what it is: depth chart politics. Coaches hate the optics of switching their guy too soon. Front offices are wary of sending the wrong message about earlier picks. There's money on the line. There's pride. There are expectations built on plans made months ago. But football doesn't care about plans. It cares about who can run the huddle and move the chains. It cares about who can win games, not meetings. And if the Browns aren't careful, they'll fall into the same trap so many franchises do. They'll stick with a plan, while someone else is outplaying it in real time. We've seen this movie before, too many times. The talented young QB doesn't fit the original narrative, so they shelve him, call it a development year. Meanwhile, the offense stagnates. The locker room gets frustrated. And by the time they finally give the kid a shot, it's too late. The season's off course. The spark is gone. The magic moment? Missed. That doesn't have to be Cleveland's fate. But the clock's ticking. And Shedeur knows it too. He's not pushing. He's not politicking. That's not his style. But he's preparing for when the moment comes. Every practice rep, every late-night film session, every subtle check down to the running back that the cameras miss, it's part of the mission. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't trying to prove he belongs anymore. He already knows that. What he's doing now is proving that he's ready to lead. That when this team eventually calls his number, whether this year, next year, or in an emergency situation, he won't need a week to get up to speed. He'll be ready. That's what separates professionals from placeholders. And make no mistake, he's a professional. Let's also talk about what he's had to overcome already, because that context matters. A rookie quarterback entering a system mid-offseason is already facing an uphill climb. Doing it with no first-team reps? Even harder. Doing it while the media fixates on his last name or on minor legal issues instead of his work ethic and leadership. Almost impossible. But somehow, Shedeur's found a way to block it all out. He hasn't lashed out. He hasn't leaned on his pedigree. He hasn't clapped back on social media or used his platform to air out grievances. Instead, he's let his play speak. And now it's starting to shout. The irony, of course, is that his setbacks have only made him more dangerous, more prepared, more focused. It's like every obstacle has refined him instead of derailing him. He's used the bench as a classroom. The doubt is fuel, and the media noise is white noise. That's a rare skill for any professional athlete, much less a 22-year-old quarterback facing scrutiny before he's even played a preseason snap. And look, we get it. The Browns don't want to rush. No one's saying crown the guy tomorrow. But the team can't pretend day 3 didn't happen. They can't act like those second-team reps weren't different. You don't have to be a scout to see it. You just have to be honest. Because Shedeur wasn't just making completions. He was controlling the tempo. He was anticipating coverage shifts. He was creating space with his eyes. That's not raw talent. That's NFL-level quarterbacking. And it's coming from a guy who hasn't been given even 10% of the opportunity the others have. So let's ask the real question. If he's doing this now, what happens when he gets the full playbook? A consistent receiver group? Real in-game rhythm? What happens when you stop holding him back? That's what should keep Stefanski and the rest of the Browns staff up at night. Not the media chatter, not the ticket headlines, not even the draft politics. What should keep them pacing is the idea that they might be sitting on something special and not acting fast enough to develop it. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't going to wait forever. That's not a threat, it's a reality. If you don't give him the room to grow, someone else will. If you don't create the lane, he'll find another one. But if you do give him the chance, if you really let him run, it could change the trajectory of this entire franchise. The Browns haven't had a quarterback story like this in a long time. A humble riser, a quiet worker, a guy with natural charisma, but no ego. A young man who makes his teammates better, builds trust with his play, not his words, and still handles off-field controversy with maturity beyond his years. That's not just a good football player. That's the kind of leader you build around. And that's what Cleveland has right now, sitting behind a depth chart full of guys who might be serviceable but don't feel like the future. So here's the choice. You can cling to the status quo, stick with the narrative, let the development plan run its course. Or you can lean into what's happening. You can let the reps match the results. You can say he's earned it and mean it. Day 3 was a turning point, not just because Shedeur Sanders made great throws, but because he made it clear he's not a project. He's a quarterback. Now, ready and waiting. The only thing left is for someone in that building to recognize it, because talent like this doesn't come around often. And when it does, you better be smart enough to let it play. Because if the Browns won't recognize it soon, someone else absolutely will. What Day 3 revealed wasn't just potential, it was readiness. Not theoretical upside, not abstract traits. Actual, tangible, demonstrable readiness. The kind that's visible to teammates, undeniable to fans, and uncomfortable to coaches clinging to pre-camp assumptions. You can't put that back in the bottle. Once a guy shows you he can handle it, the excuse of he's not ready no longer holds water. And Shedeur Sanders didn't just pass that test. He obliterated it. Let's not act like this was some nice practice or lucky streak. This was a composed, calculated, NFL-caliber performance, built on repetition, awareness, and emotional control. He made throws that required anticipation. He manipulated safeties with his eyes. He ran the offense with tempo and efficiency. It wasn't perfect, but it was commanding. It was the kind of practice that makes people upstairs start whispering things like evaluation window and reps distribution. Because here's the secret every coach knows. When a quarterback starts building rhythm, you don't interrupt it. You feed it. You build around it. You give him another chance and another, because momentum in this league is rare, especially for rookies. And when it starts forming, smart teams nurture like fire on a cold night. The Browns don't need to name Shedeur the starter today. They don't even need to put him on the second team full-time. But if they don't give him a longer leash, more reps, more looks, maybe a real drive in the first preseason game, they're risking a collapse in trust. Because the team sees it. The receivers he's connecting with, they feel the rhythm. The defense lining up against him, they felt the timing. The players notice things fans don't. How the huddle responds. How calm the offense is under pressure, whether a QB leads with presence or just performs when it's convenient. And every report, every side conversation, every post-practice interaction says the same thing. Shedeur is that guy, even if he's not the guy yet. And then there's a fan base. Cleveland isn't casual. This isn't a city that shows up just for beer and halftime shows. They know football. They live and breathe it. And they feel when something real is brewing. You can see it online already. Posts, threads, training camp footage being dissected like game film. The buzz is building, not because people are desperate for a savior, but because they're tired of being told to wait while the solution is standing on the sideline, helmet on, ready. Cleveland has lived through too many quarterback eras. That never really began. Too many names etched in pain across the back of jerseys. Too many backups elevated out of desperation. What they want now, what they need, is a reason to believe in a process that rewards effort, not just draft status. They want to see what happens when the right guy earns it and the team actually listens. That's what Shedeur represents right now. Hope grounded in performance. Not fantasy. Not fan fiction. A young quarterback who's showing it before asking for it. That kind of player is rare and dangerous. Because if you don't move on him while he's hot, while he's sharp, while the locker room energy is with him, you risk cooling that momentum off permanently. And momentum, once lost, doesn't always return. You can't keep a quarterback in a box forever. You either give him room to grow or you suffocate the progress. And the cruel irony of the NFL is that for many quarterbacks, the biggest challenge isn't Sunday pressure. It's organizational hesitation. It's having to prove yourself 3 times over, while others are handed opportunities you were never even allowed to earn. Shedeur knows this. He's seen it. He's lived it. It's why he doesn't flinch when overlooked. It's why he doesn't pout after getting QB3 reps or stay quiet in walkthroughs. He treats every moment like an audition because he understands that his path will never be conventional. He's not just fighting to be seen, he's fighting to stay seen. And that's made him sharper than most. He knows what it takes to build trust, both on and off the field. And let's talk about that off-the-field part for a second, because this is where the media's lens has done him dirty. The speeding tickets? Real. Immature? Sure. But the avalanche of headlines that followed had very little to do with accountability and everything to do with narrative. It was a pre-written story waiting for a misstep. And when the misstep came, the reaction was outsized and oddly moralizing, especially when compared to blind eyes turned toward other players' far more serious off-field issues. The contrast is jarring. Sanders takes responsibility, doesn't deflect, doesn't whine, and yet becomes a target of a days-long discourse on whether he's mature enough to lead a franchise. Meanwhile, his community work goes unreported. The events he quietly attends. The work he does with kids, without cameras, without fanfare. That doesn't trend. That doesn't feed the system. Because what's easier to push? The complex truth of a young athlete growing under pressure. Or the one-line clickbait story of Coach Prime's kid in trouble? It's exhausting. But he's not letting it define him. And maybe that's what impresses people most. The grace with which Shedeur is moving through a pressure cooker of expectations, doubt, limited opportunity, and public scrutiny, and still producing, still improving, still showing up early, staying late, leading quietly, and when given a chance, delivering. The Browns owe it to themselves to see this through. And to be clear, giving Shedeur a bigger opportunity isn't a knock on Gabriel or Pickett or Flacco. It's not a demotion for others. It's a recognition of what's actually happening in camp. It's saying, we see you and we're adjusting accordingly. That kind of responsiveness builds a healthy culture, one where merit is noticed and rewarded. And if you want to talk about future-proofing the franchise, well, Shedeur is already playing like someone who sees the whole picture, not just a season, not just a game in front of him, but the system. He understands the politics, but he doesn't play them. He prepares as if every day is a game day, knowing that the moment they finally take the training wheels off, he needs to be full speed already. That's how you build a quarterback. And the Browns, whether they admit it publicly or not, are watching a blueprint unfold. A young man quietly checking every box, defying expectations, and forcing the conversation without demanding it. What comes next is up to them, because Shedeur can't throw his way into first-team reps. He can't demand the huddle. He has to wait until the staff decides they're ready to stop watching and start evaluating, until someone steps up and says, let's find out what we really have here. If they do, they might just find out that they already have their guy, not a placeholder, not a flash in the pan, a future leader, a quarterback for the next decade, a player who, with all the odds stacked against him, didn't complain, he prepared, didn't push, he performed, didn't ask for shortcuts, he earned every single yard. Day 3 was just the beginning. Now it's time for the Browns to ask themselves, are we watching a hot streak, or are we watching the rise of a franchise quarterback? Either way, the clock is ticking, and Shedeur Sanders is ready.